I was gripping the steering wheel with frozen fingers, battling through the worst snowstorm of the decade to reach Jessica on her birthday. 9 hours of treacherous driving, but the chocolate raspberry cake sitting beside me would be worth it. After 5 years together, our marriage had weathered its own storms. The distance growing between us lately made this surprise even more crucial. This birthday would change everything between us, though not in any way I could have imagined. Before we dive into what happened next, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button to join me for more life-changing moments. Meeting Jessica felt like finding a missing puzzle piece in my life. We connected at a university art exhibition where her vibrant paintings caught my attention even before she did. I remember how her dark curls framed her face as she explained the symbolism behind her favorite piece. Andreas Mercer, corporate finance guy, completely captivated by this free-spirited artist. Our early days together were filled with weekend adventures and late-night conversations about everything and nothing. She taught me to see beauty in ordinary moments, while I helped ground her dreams with practical plans. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I believed. The proposal happened at Glacier Point in Yosemite, the mountains behind us, mirroring the peaks and valleys we promised to navigate together. The wedding followed a year later, an intimate gathering with fairy lights and wildflowers. Jessica glowed with happiness that day. I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. 3 years into our marriage, things began changing gradually. My promotion meant longer hours and frequent business trips. The financial security came at the cost of time together. Jessica tried understanding at first, but her patience wore thin as weeks of separation stretched between brief reunions. Our last conversation before this birthday trip had ended, with her walking away mid-sentence. "You always choose work over us, Andreas. I cannot remember the last time we had an actual conversation that wasn't about your schedule or my accommodating it," she had said, voice trembling with frustration. "This project ends next week, Jess. Things will calm down after that, I promised," knowing my words sounded hollow after months of similar assurances. "Sure they will," she replied before closing our bedroom door between us. That night, I made my decision. I would drive home for her 32nd birthday regardless of meetings or weather forecasts. This grand gesture would remind her of the man she fell in love with, the one who would cross mountains for her smile. The forecast warned of the approaching blizzard, but I dismissed the concern. 9 hours normally separated my temporary project location in Chicago from our home in Columbus. The storm might add a few hours, but I calculated I could still arrive before midnight, birthday cake in hand. The drive began smoothly, enough roads still clear as I left Illinois behind. By Indiana, snowflakes swirled increasingly thick around my sedan. Radio reports advised staying off roads, but turning back seemed unthinkable. Each mile brought me closer to fixing what had broken between us. I stopped at a bakery Jessica had once mentioned loving during a college road trip. The elderly baker seemed surprised when I requested her special chocolate raspberry creation with "Happy Birthday, Jessica" written in her favorite purple frosting. I paid extra for a sturdier box to protect it during the turbulent drive ahead. Hour 7 found me inching along Interstate 70, knuckles white against the steering wheel windshield wipers, fighting a losing battle against the snow. Twice I nearly slid off the road, but thoughts of Jessica kept me focused. I imagined her face lighting up when I appeared unexpectedly. The reconciliation that would follow, perhaps even rekindling what had dimmed between us lately. My phone rang with her sister Amanda calling, probably coordinating the small family dinner they had planned. I let it go to voicemail, savoring the impending surprise. Later, I would realize how different things might have been had I answered. By 10:30 that night, the worst of the storm passed as I entered our neighborhood. Snowplows had already cleared our suburban street, making the final approach easier than the previous hundreds of miles. Parking a block away to preserve the surprise, I carefully lifted the cake box and trudged through ankle-deep snow toward the warm glow of our windows. The house key turned silently in the lock, allowing me to slip inside undetected. Boots removed carefully to prevent snowy footprints. I moved through our darkened living room toward voices coming from the kitchen. Familiar laughter warmed me faster than the house heat. Jessica sounded happier than she had in months. Pausing in the hallway, cake balanced carefully in my hands, I prepared to make my entrance. Their conversation reached me clearly, stopping me mid-step. "God, I hope he crashes. I could use the insurance," Jessica said casually, followed by the clink of wine glasses. My body froze completely, mind refusing to process her words. Or at least a few months of silence, Amanda replied, triggering their shared laughter. Honestly, how do you stand those endless calls checking in? I mute him half the time and just say yes periodically, Jessica confessed. He never notices the difference. The cake box suddenly felt impossibly heavy in my hands. Surely I had misheard. Perhaps it was some dark joke about someone else. Remember when you thought his ambition was sexy? Amanda asked teasingly. Now I just find it convenient. He stays gone, sends money, and I get to live my life without his constant neediness. Win-win. Except for his surprise visits, Amanda added, which thankfully this storm should prevent. Honestly, if he showed up tonight, I might scream. David is taking me to the gallery opening tomorrow, and the last thing I need is Andreas sulking around making me feel guilty. David, the gallery owner who had been appearing increasingly often in Jessica's social media posts. The knot in my stomach tightened. Have you told Andreas about David yet? Amanda inquired. There is nothing to tell officially, Jessica replied evasively. But even if there was, why rush? Better to wait until after bonus season. Their laughter felt like physical blows, each one striking deeper than the last. My vision tunneled, breaths coming shallow and quick. 5 years of memories recalibrated themselves in sickening clarity. The late-night texts she shielded from my view. Her sudden interest in gallery events when I was home. The decreasing physical affection explained away as stress. Moving mechanically, I placed the cake silently on the kitchen counter, where they would see it still concealed from their view by the partial wall. The purple frosting now seemed garish and pathetic. Without a word or confrontation, I retreated carefully, retracing my steps through the living room. Outside, the bitter cold matched the hollowness spreading through my chest. Driving through the snowstorm no longer seemed like the most dangerous part of this day. I checked into a hotel 20 minutes away, sitting motionless on the edge of the bed until sunrise, replaying their conversation on endless loop. My phone lit up with Jessica's call at 12:01 a.m. Exactly. Her birthday. I silenced it without answering. Then came the text messages. The cake. Was that you, Andreas? Please call me. It is not what you think. But it was exactly what I thought. The truth had been served on a platter alongside that chocolate raspberry cake. Morning light brought no clarity, only exhausted resolve. Sleep had evaded me entirely, leaving my eyes red-rimmed and burning. The hotel room coffee tasted bitter as I methodically planned what came next. No dramatic confrontations. No pleading for explanations. Just dignified exit. First came the painful review of ignored warning signs. Jessica's increasing password protection on her devices. Her vague descriptions of evenings spent with friends. The way her expression sometimes shifted when seeing my name on incoming calls. The decreasing frequency of, I love you. The separate vacations she had begun suggesting as healthy for our independence. A quick check of her Instagram revealed multiple photos with David that bordered on intimate. Comments between them containing private jokes and subtle references. Nothing explicitly incriminating, but undeniable emotional connection displayed publicly while I worked 70-hour weeks to build our future. The corporate apartment in Boston suddenly transformed from unwanted necessity to refuge. The regional position I had repeatedly declined now represented escape. One call to my manager confirmed the role remained unfilled. By noon, I had formally requested transfer, citing personal circumstances. Next came legal consultation. A discreet phone call to a law firm yielded a 2 o'clock appointment. The attorney listened impassively as I recounted the previous night, then outlined preliminary steps toward divorce. Financial separation topped the list. By 3:30, I had opened a new bank account, transferring half our savings. Not a penny more despite the temptation. The joint credit cards would remain untouched from my end. Jessica called 17 times throughout these proceedings. Text messages accumulated unread. A final voicemail captured her, shifting from concerned to irritated. Andreas, this is childish. We need to talk about what you think you heard. Call me back. What I thought I heard. The subtle gaslight attempt strengthened my resolve. At 4:15, I returned to our house, confirming Jessica's car remained absent. Gallery preparations with David, no doubt. The cake still sat on the counter untouched, except for a single finger swipe through the frosting. Testing if it was real, perhaps. Upstairs, I methodically packed essentials. Clothes for 2 weeks. Important documents. Personal mementos that couldn't be replaced. My grandparents' photograph. The watch my father gifted at graduation. deliberately leaving wedding pictures undisturbed. On the kitchen table, I placed my brief note. Jessica, I heard everything last night. Taking the Boston position. Will contact you through attorneys regarding next steps. The house and remaining accounts are untouched. Andreas. No accusations, no emotions spilled across the page. Just facts she couldn't deny or reframe. The drive to Boston passed in numbing silence. No music, no podcasts. Just the steady rhythm of highway markers, counting down distance from my former life. 6 hours that simultaneously felt like minutes and eternity. The corporate apartment welcomed me with impersonal efficiency. Neutral gray furnishings, basic necessities. Blank walls awaiting personality that I lacked energy to provide. I unplugged from the world airplane mode, preventing the barrage of messages I knew would escalate once Jessica processed my departure. Morning brought the first day of reconstruction. New routine, corporate gym at 6. Office by 8. Productivity channeled through focused determination. Colleagues noticed my intensified presence, but respectfully maintained distance from the man clearly processing something significant. 3 days passed before I finally read Jessica's messages. The progression proved predictable. Confusion. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? Anger. You cannot just leave like this. This is insane. Bargaining, please come home so we can talk. Whatever you think you heard was taken out of context. Manipulation. My mother is in the hospital. I need you. A quick check confirmed this was false. Threats, if you don't respond, I am calling the police to report you missing. More anger. You think leaving solves anything? Grow up, Andreas. Her sister Amanda. Attempted contact. Next message. Surprisingly apologetic. What Jessica said was wrong. We were just venting after wine. Please talk to her. Just venting. The casual cruelty dismissed as meaningless girl talk. As though wishing for my death was standard relationship frustration. Week 2 brought legal proceedings into motion. Divorce papers drawn. Financial statements compiled. Massachusetts residency established. The corporate position formally accepted. Systematic dismantling of shared life. Mutual friends began calling recruited as unwitting mediators. I provided the same simple explanation to each Jessica, and I want different things. I heard her say so personally. No elaboration. No character assassination. Just quiet truth that inevitably led them to question her for details, spreading ripples I didn't need to create directly. Thomas. My college roommate living in Cambridge became unexpected support. Our reconnection over dinner expanded into regular basketball games and occasional beers. His steady presence offered normalcy without demands for explanations I wasn't ready to provide. Then came the appearance I knew was inevitable. Exactly 3 weeks after my departure, security called from the lobby. Jessica had somehow tracked down my building, demanding access. Rather than creating scene that would follow me professionally, I agreed to 5 minutes. She looked simultaneously familiar and foreign standing in my doorway. The same dark curls and green eyes that once captivated me now belonged to someone I no longer recognized. Designer outfit carefully selected for impact. Expression practiced between contrition and indignation. You didn't even give me a chance to explain, she began, immediately stepping forward, as though entering our shared space rather than territory she had no right to claim. The cake was explanation enough, I replied calmly, maintaining distance both physical and emotional. You heard one snippet of conversation completely out of context, she insisted, voice rising slightly. People say stupid things they don't mean when venting. Do they wish for their spouses to die in car accidents? My question hung between us, unavoidable and damning. It was dark humor, Andreas. Amanda and I were drinking wine, being ridiculous. You know I wouldn't actually want that. Her eyes searched mine for familiar softness, finding only measured assessment. The insurance comment. The months of silence David I listed quietly. Which part was the joke? Jessica. David is just a friend. She protested automatically, though her gaze flickered downward briefly. And the rest was just stupid talk. Everyone says things they don't mean when frustrated. I have never wished you physical harm when frustrated, I noted simply. Even now. So, you're throwing away 5 years over one overheard conversation, without even fighting for us. The manipulation tactic might have worked 3 weeks earlier. Now it rang hollow against new clarity. I am not throwing away anything. I am accepting what you revealed when you thought I couldn't hear. The marriage was already over for you. I just finally received the message. That is not true. She insisted, tears forming perfectly on cue. I love you, Andreas. I was just stressed and saying stupid things. You were laughing about my potential death, while I was risking my life to surprise you. Each word emerged, precisely measured. That goes beyond stress or frustration. People make mistakes. You cannot just walk away without giving me a chance to make this right. Her voice cracked convincingly. What happened to, for better or worse? You exercised your right to worse. Now I am choosing better for myself. The calm delivery seemed to finally penetrate her practiced approach. Frustration replaced performance. So you're the victim here. Perfect. Andreas never did anything wrong. Her tone sharpened. What about all the times you chose work over me? The missed anniversaries. The constant phone checking during our rare dinners together. I never claimed perfection. I made mistakes and would have worked on them had you communicated honestly, instead of building resentment and involving David. There you go again with David. Nothing happened with him. The defensive response confirmed precisely what it attempted to deny. It doesn't matter anymore, I replied truthfully. Whatever did or didn't happen with David isn't the issue. It's what you revealed about your feelings toward me, about wishing me harm rather than simply asking for divorce. I don't want a divorce, she insisted, tears flowing freely now. I want another chance. For what purpose, Jessica? Financial security, until you find better arrangement. More months of silence you clearly prefer to my presence. She flinched at her own words, thrown back precisely. That wasn't real. This is real, she gestured between us desperately. 5 years together is real. Yes, it was. And now it's over. Simple truth delivered without malice finally broke through her composed facade. Anger flashed, genuine and raw. You will regret this, she warned, voice low. When you're alone in this soulless apartment with nothing but your precious career, you'll realize what you threw away. I already survived what I thought was my worst fear, I answered quietly. Losing you. Turns out, living with someone who wishes me harm would have been far worse. Her parting slam of the door punctuated our final conversation. Within minutes, social media notifications pinged with her public display of grief. Vague posts about forgiveness and second chances. Mutual friends tagged for maximum visibility. The performance continuing for audience she deemed more important than actual relationship. True to prediction, the regret she referenced emerged, though not from my quarter. 3 days later, Amanda called. She's a mess, Andreas. I've never seen her like this. She genuinely realizes what she lost. That's unfortunate, I replied, without satisfaction or cruelty. Simply acknowledgement. The things we said that night were horrible, Amanda admitted. I feel sick thinking about it. We were just being catty and stupid. Jessica doesn't want you gone. What she wants doesn't guide my decisions anymore. Everyone deserves forgiveness for one mistake, Amanda pressed. It wasn't one mistake. It was revelation of true feelings. Please respect that this marriage is over. Weeks turned to months. Divorce proceedings continued without drama or contested assets. Jessica eventually stopped calling. Reality finally accepted. Mutual friends reported her initial anger giving way to genuine regret. The relationship with David fizzled once the forbidden aspect disappeared. My Boston life gradually took shape. The corporate role suited my focused approach. Weekend hikes through New England landscapes provided peace that had evaded me for years. Therapy sessions helped process betrayal without becoming defined by it. Grace entered unexpectedly owner of the bookstore, where I sought Sunday morning refuge. No dramatic lightning strike, just gentle conversations evolving into coffee dates without pressure or expectations. Her straightforward kindness offering contrast to relationships built on performance. 1 year after the Snowstorm journey, a letter arrived with Jessica's handwriting. Inside, simple acknowledgement, without demands. I understand now what I threw away, and the person I became when I should have simply been honest. The lesson cost me everything worth having. I hope you find someone who appreciates what I failed to value. I am truly sorry. No response seemed necessary. The closure came not from her words, but from my own journey, through pain towards something authentic. The man who drove 9 hours through blizzard conditions desperately seeking approval had been replaced by someone who understood his own worth. The healing didn't happen overnight. Those first months brought waves of anger, disbelief, and profound sadness that threatened to pull me under. Some mornings the weight seemed unbearable. The questions haunted me. How had I missed the signs? Had anything between us been genuine? Gradually, the overwhelming pain subsided, replaced by calmer waters. New friendships formed without desperate need for validation. Thomas introduced me to his hiking group. My sister visited monthly, bringing my niece, whose unfiltered affection reminded me of simpler connections. The bookstore became sanctuary, where Grace's literature recommendations provided escape when memories pressed too close. Each step forward taught me that walking away had required more courage than staying ever would have. True strength meant protecting yourself from those who disguise harm as love. The hardest lesson came in recognizing that sometimes loving yourself means removing yourself from equations that diminish your value. Jessica's betrayal taught me to listen when people tell you who they are, especially when they think you cannot hear them. The words spoken between her and Amanda that night were the most honest conversation in our marriage. The pain of that truth ultimately gave me freedom that pleading for explanation would have denied. What about you? Have you ever discovered painful truth that ultimately set you free? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and hit the like button to support more stories of resilience and self-discovery. Remember, sometimes the most profound growth comes from walking away rather than holding on. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to protect your peace, however that looks in your life.